Oh,
Pamela.
There it is.
Pamela. Naughty. That's just such a
I know.
Yeah.
straightforward nickname
Yeah.
right there, just
Yeah.
right off the bat.
I know.
I've always been like that, always given nicknames to the whole world. My class, none of my kids knew what their actual names were of their classmates because everybody had a different nickname.
My wife's family.
I just
does
grew
that.
up in one of those households where everybody had a nickname.
Everyone has it. In my wife's family, they all go by their nicknames.
Yeah.
Like all the cousins.
My second oldest brother's name is Marcos, but we called him Kikio.
Mm-hmm.
My third oldest brother's name is Abraham, but we called him Kiko, which is my second oldest brother's middle name because he looked like my grandfather on my dad's side. So they called him Kiko, even though it was my second oldest brother's name. My oldest brother, they chopped his name in half, called him Moy instead of Moises. So just like a lot of that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
this
Are they
one,
all
red
all
over-
boys?
for us, all boys.
Wow.
4 boys. August 77, July 76, September 75, August 74.
It's a busy 4 years.
I was born August 9th. My oldest is August 13th. So for 4 days, my mom had a newborn, a 1-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Wow. Wow.
4 days. Imagine that many diapers. That was,
I can't.
she said, this was the darkest time. of my
Yeah.
life
I mean,
as a parent. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Hey. Well, good. We're all live, and that's good. We still got a couple of minutes, so we'll sit here and chat just for a few more minutes and see what other stories here. Actually, I did call family and ask for a joke. You guys were saying, are we
Yeah.
gonna tell a joke when we go on there?
Yeah.
So here's the joke, and it's from one of my son who's 5 or 6. He's about to turn 7. He has these informational texts, so he just loves to learn about new things. You know, just like we got him this book about the oceans, and on the bottom of it, it says, how do 2 oceans say hi to each other? Like, how do they actually say hello to each other?
Mm-hmm.
And it says, oh, they don't speak, they just wave. I think that's so good.
That's cute.
So my son memorizes these things and then goes to his school and like just can't wait to tell his teachers all about his newest joke.
I'm going to tell my daughter that one.
Yeah.
She'll like that one.
So yesterday was my 5-year-old's birthday.
Oh, nice.
She turned 5 yesterday. She's a now kinder at her school. And so she took these cupcakes to school, you know,
Yeah.
like, hey, it's my birthday, here, everybody get a cupcake. Oh, it kind of makes a kid feel special.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes back and half of them are not eaten. I said, oh, that's interesting. What, you know, because we did like the individual package so that they were not, you know, like people weren't pawing all over them. And she just said, half my class doesn't like chocolate.
Really?
I said, really? Because we got her like half white cake or whatever kind of cake you call that. Yeah, vanilla cake with the vanilla frosting.
Yeah.
And then the other half we got chocolate with a chocolate frosting, thinking like, you know, at some point somebody's gonna say, give me that cupcake.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Right.
this isn't my preferred cupcake flavor, but I'll go ahead and take that. No, they sent them back.
Oh my gosh. Huh?
They said thanks, but no thanks. I said, man, we're gonna have to do some kind of big survey at the start of the
I
year.
know.
Exactly.
Asking kids, do you want
Chocolate cupcakes.
sprinkles? Do you not?
Can't go wrong with that usually.
I had never heard about that until this year.
Yeah,
Something's
know.
changing out there. These children.
Interesting.
I guess so.
I think I'm just getting older because I just feel like I want to wag my finger and say it's not like the good old
I
days.
know.
Yeah, I know. As soon as you start doing that, that's a sign you're
Not
getting older.
like the
Or when I was
good
in
old-
school.
Yeah.
When you were in school, did they let you take things to school like
Oh, yeah.
cupcakes or
For sure.
like for us it was
For
easy.
sure.
It was like
Mhm.
we had parents that would show up with like pozole, like every like
Yeah.
we're all having pozole for lunch today. Yeah, you know, Hernando's mom brought it. Like, all right, yeah, heck yeah. I can't wait for no, and like a pot with a little heater. You know those? Have you seen those like the outdoor
Yeah.
like it's like a butane heater,
Mhm.
and they can like boil things
Portable.
and cook things.
Yeah.
Diego probably knows what we're talking about there. I'm sure I don't know if you know, but his family owns a restaurant in
Oh.
the city.
Where?
Yeah, in the city.
in the city.
I've never been
In
to
San
it.
Francisco?
Where is it?
It's in Balboa Street.
Okay.
I'm plugging it in right now.
Yeah.
It's
In
called-
in the Richmond
yeah,
district.
Richmond District.
Yeah,
Right up
what-
Balboa,
what's-
36. It's
36.
called Cielito Lindo.
All right.
I
think I know
Yeah, I
that.
grew up in the Richmond and the Sunset.
We're going.
Look at that.
There you go.
I'm connecting people right
Right.
there. And I'm connecting the families of the San Mateo-Foster City School District to our YouTube live stream. Thank you all for joining. I want to let families know, we opened this up a little bit early because at our last YouTube live stream, we hit start at right at 5:30, and a lot of people don't know this, but myself and Superintendent McGee and our tech person Roman and Pam Bartfield and Diego Perez sat there for 4 minutes watching the computer screen do this. And it was the worst 4 minutes of my week because I just was like, this isn't going to happen. We're basically going to be on pause. So I asked our director of technology, Peter, who's here today, to just get us started a little bit early. So thank you, families, for joining us. Tonight's presentation, tonight's meeting is really a follow-up on last week with some new information, some new protocols, some new steps we're taking that we're feeling pretty excited about. So I want to take you through a couple of documents. This is our pooled testing plan. Parents are going to get this emailed to them by the end of the week. We're excited about this plan. We presented it at the school board meeting last week. So it's exciting to see that content get out. We really have a plan that we think is going to lead to us basically testing every child in this district every week, which is a huge achievement for us, and we think is going to really contribute to some healthy campuses and a lot of kids getting their that feeling of comfort, that feeling of security that they're COVID free. So we feel good about that. And right now we've circled September 13th as the start date district wide. I will say to families, give us some forbearance because we are working with the vendor. So we're working on September 13th, and if it's the 14th or the 15th, we're just gonna work with the system. And if there are any other delays, we'll have another event like this and talk about that. But the pool testing program is a big piece that we're gonna talk about tonight. I wanna let families know, we want you to jump in those chat, the chat questions, the chat ideas. Pam Bartfield, our director of CNI, is here again, and Diego Perez, our communication specialist, is here with us again. So thank you both for being here. I want to show you this. This is our COVID-19 dashboard. If you go to the San Mateo Foster City School District website, you will find that dashboard, and right beneath it, links to the prior week's dashboard and links to the week before that's dashboard. So what we've seen is in our first week of transmission in the district, we basically had four cases district-wide. And as you know, we were only in school 2 days that week. So the second week, it came up to 15 cases during that week. New cases, that's on top of the 4 that we initially had. And then this third week, we ramped it up to 19. So we're seeing a sort of level that's actually pretty common right now, region-wide. We're one of the only districts that's actually producing this kind of content. A San Francisco TV station put out a report with links to everybody's COVID dashboards throughout the peninsula, and actually about 90% of them, the data is missing or there's no dashboard. So it's a handful of districts that are actually going to this step to show that data. I think it's important because I think you just got to tell people what's happening,
Right.
and then you just go from there and you just work with the information that you get.
Yeah.
So this dashboard is there. We'll update it again. We usually do it Mondays at 8:30, but this upcoming Monday is a holiday, so we're going to do it Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning. So that's the second piece. The third piece is this. Super excited about this. This was sent out to all families in the district yesterday and today. A link was sent yesterday and the actual content sent today. And basically what it's telling you is that starting today, we are providing free COVID testing where families go online and register with their phone or in-person register. And basically no appointment is necessary. Today we have people at George Hall Elementary School. Somebody just sent me a text message picture. There's about 40 families in line. The principal of the school sent me a text and said, hey, it's going very well. We put it together very quickly. We worked with Virus Geeks, it's our vendor for this testing. And it really happened over 4 days. And then we got all that content put together. This visual that I showed you that I'll just hold up one more time. It has all the dates for the testing district-wide. It tells you what schools, it tells you what time. So I really want you to encourage you to take advantage of that. And then a little bit later tonight, we're going to talk about travel. There's a visual that we're going to send out tomorrow to all families. As you know, there's a extra day off coming up here, and that often leads to more travel. And we want to share the recommendations and requirements with all these families. But as you can tell, I'm joined here by two of my colleagues, the principal of Bayside K-8. You want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is John Cosmos. I'm the principal at Bayside Academy, and I'm very happy to be here. I want to thank Superintendent Ochoa for this opportunity to talk COVID with everyone. So thank you.
And John's been a principal for 37 years.
Well, yeah.
Well,
If you count all the years in education, you're actually
Count it all
not,
up.
you're not too far off, but yes.
So how many years is a
So
principal?
this is my 16th year as a principal,
16th year.
all in San Mateo-Foster City.
The other day when we talked, I told you, hey, you basically have 4 college degrees as a school principal, right? Or
exactly.
two doctorates as a
Right,
school principal.
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you've been at it a long time.
It's been a long haul, but it's been great. All in San Mateo, Foster City. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
it's
And
been
we're
great.
also joined by the new principal of Foster City Elementary School. Why don't you introduce yourself to the families at home that don't know you?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Goll, and I am the new principal at Foster City Elementary School.
Yeah. And Amanda, tell them how you ended up in San
Oh,
Mateo.
and he
Foster City.
hired me
Yes.
in the school district
I had to
about
share that when I was at
a
Burrell
few 9 or
Middle
10 years ago,
School as a
and
Spanish teacher.
as a Spanish teacher.
Correct.
Yeah.
I also grew up in the school district and went to Foster City
You're from
School.
here,
And
you
from
live-
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
My family's still local, so.
It's actually kind of great too when you're a principal. I miss that now as a superintendent, where when you hire somebody, you just get that spark where you're like, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
This person is, I don't know exactly where they're going to end up, but
Yeah.
this
Exact-
was
that's-
a good hire. It's
Yeah,
like,
that was the case with Amanda.
Was that what happened,
knew
John?
it. You knew it.
yeah.
Real early on, you knew that Amanda was
Yeah.
going to do
Well,
great
thank you.
things.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Amanda started just a few months ago. Amanda's actually pursuing her doctorate degree right now
Mhm.
through the University of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
So you came back, you had about a week to get yourself your bearings before we started this process. We knew that COVID was going to play a role this fall. We didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And then we start to have cases show up. I've got the data here for your school. So we've got the cases for the week of August 15th.
Mhm.
And I'm going to read you some of these cases district-wide. Burrell Middle School, 0 cases through that week. Bayside, that week you had 0. Audubon, 0. Baywood, 0. Beach Park, 0. Brewer Island, 0. So down the list, that second week, we just saw a lot of schools that didn't have cases.
Mhm.
And then we have Foster City. And
Mhm.
Foster City had 6 cases. So just talk to the families, talk to us about, what it was like that week when you had that week where you had those 6 cases that popped up.
Yeah, and it wasn't too long ago. I had sent a message to my community about, my 12th day of being a principal. I didn't necessarily anticipate all of this happening, although I knew that with COVID and what's going on, we had to be prepared. And so I think what we learned very quickly is the ability to be flexible and pivot and really use the data that we have in front of us to make some data-driven decisions, especially around COVID. Something else too is Foster City is a very large elementary school. It's the largest.
Do you remember that conversation that you and I had?
Yeah.
I told you.
You called me and you
One-
had to remind me.
1 out of every 12 kids in our district goes to her school.
Yeah.
Think about that. There's 21 schools,
Mhm.
but 1 out of every 12 kids is is in classes at Foster City. It's just a huge school.
Big
It's a
school.
it's a K-5, but it's a really big K-5.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a good way to think about it, and then
Mhm.
talk about that first initiation of that class full quarantine, where we actually had the 3 cases, and then what took place from there.
Yeah, and I think part of what we need to remember about this is it's a community effort, and so the reason that we're finding out about what's going on is because families are calling us and letting us know and being very honest and open about this. um, it's nobody's fault if people are getting COVID. That we don't want to create a culture of like shame around it. What we
Mhm.
really want to do is just make sure that we have the information so that we can make good decisions. And so it happened very quickly. Parents let us know, and we followed the framework, communicated with our nursing department,
Yeah.
and then had to make decisions very quickly. Our teacher was great in terms of being able to move to the full quarantine, which means that students are learning remotely for 14 calendar days.
Mhm.
And she was
Basically 10 school days.
Yeah.
If there are no vacations. and things like
basically, yeah. And so the teachers were ready to do that, and the families were very supportive and understanding, and just giving people the information as quickly as we were able to, and then continue to adjust as we saw things popping up.
that. And if you remember, I came to your school
Mm-hmm.
and we actually did a meeting where you had 475 parents
right.
watching live the day that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
You and I got on not our YouTube live
The
stream, but
webinar.
something like this. It
Mm-hmm.
was actually what got me thinking about this. Was if we can get 500 families to watch something from just one school, that told me a lot more families want to know more information. So we need to open that up.
Right.
And now you're in your second week.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in your third week. You have another class that falls under the same criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a group of kids actually coming back tomorrow,
Yeah, at the end of this
coming
week.
back,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have another class that started yesterday or the
Last
day before
last
yesterday.
week,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
Mhm.
day before yesterday. And so it's almost like you've been through this. You know the steps. You
Mhm.
know the right process to use.
Yeah, and I think we just also continue in collaboration with you. I mean, you and I pretty much talked about what's going on at Foster City School every day, and a lot
We
of people
talk
from the
every
district. And
day.
and I, have worked to really let my staff know what's going on. They've been great, and my office staff and everybody just super supportive. And again, it's just about getting information out there as clearly and as quickly as we can, and then making decisions, uh, knowing our community and knowing how large our school is, an elementary school,
That's right.
and working with what we need to do just to mitigate the spread. I think that's a really important message is we're trying to mitigate.
The other thing that's important is what our process is. So
Mhm.
we actually sometimes get a phone call to the principal that says, Mrs. Goll, um, my child has COVID.
Mhm.
And from there, you pick up the phone and you call myself and you call Susie Riley, who's our coordinator for student health. And she has a team of nurses that help her do immediate contact tracing.
Mhm.
And in many cases around the district, because I get the opportunity of talking to the staff about all the cases in the district, whereas you hear about the Foster City cases,
Mhm.
I'm able to learn about all the cases in the district. So when they start their contact trace, what they find out is there was a family party last weekend. We weren't wearing face coverings. Our uncle called us last night and told us he has COVID.
Mhm.
Or 6 friends got together for a barbecue at the park. We played basketball after. We ate food together. We drank from the same 2
Mhm.
liters. We weren't wearing masks. Or I traveled out of town. If you can believe it, in one case, there's even situations where the parent was positive for COVID and still sent the child to school, which is a big no-no for
Mhm.
us. If the adult is positive for COVID, we need that child to stay home, and we'll initiate that in-home academic support, the in-home,
Mhm.
basically in-home instruction, because that's the only way to mitigate that spread. So the minute a family knows that mom or dad or older brother is COVID positive, that child needs to stay home if they go to school for us.
Mhm.
And you're sort of deep into it, and
Mhm.
now today's the
Yeah.
first day
Yeah.
over at Bayside.
Right,
John, you have your first class going on
right.
in-home instruction
Correct.
for the 2 weeks. So talk about what that's been like for you as the principal.
Right. So at Bayside, our situation has been we haven't had multiple cases from any one classroom
Yeah.
until today.
Yeah.
And so we did.
Because you actually had cases, but they
Yes.
were sort of one here,
Correct.
one there, one
Correct. Had some sibling situations.
Yeah.
But today's was the first time we had multiple cases from one classroom.
Yeah.
And so we did need to close the classroom down.
Yeah.
And as Amanda had mentioned, this idea of collaboration between the sites. So every school is in a different place with this.
Mhm.
And so, our next step is to really look at kind of implementing some more stringent protocols
Yeah.
along the lines of what Foster City has done.
That's
And
right.
so I will be working with Amanda to
Yeah.
see what are some of the next steps we can take.
Yeah.
And so I
And
think that's
Amanda, on her first meeting, when we had that first call, you had some parents say, "Hey, Juan, why are adults going on campus to
Yeah.
pick kids up?" And you said, "I'm going to stop that tomorrow."
Mhm.
You sat down and you wrote an email. You
Yeah.
sent it to everybody. Say,
and
pick,
so this
pick up is off campus.
that's an example, and that came up today about parent drop off and those kinds of things. There's a number of different things that up until now we haven't had to do, but now we're going to take those
We are going
steps.
to do. And Amanda, also, you changed up your lunch schedule when you thought there was a concern. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just, to acknowledge that when we opened school, we're continuing to read the San Mateo County pandemic framework and abiding by what their suggestions and guidelines are. And at that point, I mean, we have a large school, so we had a lot of students playing together. And then based upon kind of the data that we were seeing, making a decision that each grade level has their own lunchtime. Each grade level has their own recess time. That also has allowed, and again, for context, we have close to 800 students at our school, which is quite large. Doing that has allowed students to space out more at lunchtime while they're eating or drinking or any of those things. We also did choose to move forward with a mask. Everyone's wearing masks unless they are eating or drinking outside.
Eating,
So
drinking.
even though the children were doing it, they were doing a really good job of it. It's just one more layer of mitigation that becomes part of the culture of what we need to do around COVID.
Yeah, and that as an example, you mentioned PE. That's something we're going to need to implement quickly. In fact, there was already a communication among some teachers at Bayside Elementary teachers about whole class PE instead of splitting the classes up.
To avoid that mix.
Correct, to avoid the mix. So we're already looking at some of the things, and then we'll be working. Our team at the site will be working on making some adjustments with input from some of our other schools and for you, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And then we're actually coming up on something new, which is travel. We have this day off on Monday. Some people are looking at their calendars and saying, "Hey, it'd be nice to go to Tahoe," or not Tahoe. The fire. Pardon me, but that's just a natural reflex. But it might be nice to go to Mendocino or go down to Los Angeles.
Right.
And maybe get down to Disneyland or. So here's what I have regarding the San Mateo County Coalition for Safe Schools. It's dated July 30th. I'm going to read it to you folks. Travel recommendations and requirements. And what it says is, please see the table below for travel recommendations and requirements for families and staff. Number 1, if you are not vaccinated, get tested 1 to 3 days before you travel. Don't leave if you have COVID. Number 2, get tested 3 days after travel and self-quarantine for 7 days. Self-quarantine for 10 days if you don't get tested. So, testing is a big part of that. Number 3, self-monitor for symptoms. And number 4, wear a mask and take precautions during travel. Take hand sanitizer. Avoid being in an unmasked area that's tight, that's confined for long periods of time. Those are key recommendations. I got a question at my Café con Diego event over at Bowditch on Tuesday, which actually, it was a nice event. We had about 20 parents show up in person, and I took questions for about an hour. And they asked the travel question. I said, here's the reality. Some folks are not going to tell us that they traveled.
Right.
Because it's the honor system.
Right.
But these requirements and recommendations exist, so I'm going to communicate them to families. We're not in charge of people's behavior when they leave the school. Like, that's just we're just we're community members. So we're
Mhm.
asking you to do this.
Right.
But these are the recommendations and requirements, and that's what we're going to put forth for everybody.
Is there a distinction with international travel? You might have mentioned.
There is,
There
yeah.
are,
There's a
yeah.
whole chart for international travel. What it basically includes that the others doesn't include, which is a mandatory test required before flying to the United States. That isn't listed in the other section, and then everything else applies. And I read everything for the not vaccinated because we're a K-8 district, so
Children.
90% of our children are not vaccinated because they're not old enough for that yet.
Right.
Yeah. And then you're sitting here with me, and I've got this right in front. Diego and Pam are over there feverishly trying to write in their best penmanship. I don't know if either one of you wants to critique their work. You're welcome to do that. But
They're doing their best.
I'll read
Yeah.
the questions, and the three of us are going to answer from our point of view.
Mhm.
Can parents test at these sites as well? John, you want to take this one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You kind of are the initiator of the testing at school. So talk a little bit about the program you had at your school, and then kick
Yeah.
it over to Amanda so
Sure.
she can talk about Foster City.
So our student services department last January reached out to me to see if I'd be interested in hosting. It's a mobile van from the county of San Mateo,
Okay.
and they come onto our parking lot.
Yeah.
First and third Saturdays.
Okay.
From all day long, and they've actually just extended their hours
Nice.
from 7 in the morning until 7 at night. So this started in January, and we had a lot of people coming initially. Then as vaccinations, as we started to see a little bit of a decline with COVID, late spring, not as much.
Yeah.
They were still coming. But now we're of course, with what's going on now, we're really excited that they will be right on our campus twice a month.
Yeah.
And
so mom
it's
shows
powerful.
up,
Absolutely.
dad shows up, they all get tested.
And I wanted to say that you don't need an appointment. You can come in, just walk up. It's free.
Yeah.
And again, it's county based.
Yeah.
They use a service called OptumServe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's a federal program.
Yeah, I had that over in Hollister.
You did?
At
Okay.
one of my middle schools there. It
Yeah.
was great. A really easy system to set up.
Right. And it's PCR testing. So
And it's just more mitigation. It's just another way to
absolutely.
mitigate. So-
Absolutely.
so
And so
that-
we're going to promote that big at Bayside right now, because I think, a lot of people knew it was there, but I think we need to get the word out some more that it's right on our campus Saturday. So
That's right. And then yours was sort of, you kind of sought it out. You went after it. Talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that we talk a lot about in our school district is we have just a wealth of knowledge and expertise in our community. And so, we had an increase in cases. And so something that we need to know is we need to know kind of the situation in terms of how many students would be asymptomatic, because we were finding that a lot of students, thankfully, have not gotten very ill, but they're asymptomatic, right? And so they still can't come to school.
That's
And
right.
so a parent actually had given me the contact information for Frank at Virus Geeks.
Yeah.
And so I called him on a Thursday, and then him and his team were able to come out last Friday, and we had, well, you were there.
The next day.
Yeah, we had over 600 people and students that were able to get PCR tested, which was very important because we were able to,
I got
figure
to meet
everything out.
400 parents.
Yeah, you
in our
did. You did that
district, 'cause
too.
You were at the door.
Yeah.
I was over at the corner, basically. Hey, how you doing? Oh, Giants fan. Hey, tell me.
yeah, I drove
kind
by.
of-
I was taking my son to practice.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
you
drove
saw
by.
us.
And I'm
You saw
like,
us.
what are they doing over there? And then I realized
They
it was
had a
testing.
long line,
Yeah,
and it went
long
all the
line.
way until 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a big message for families. Like, we actually listen to you.
Hmm.
We're actually paying attention to what you tell us. You know, principals get 100 emails a day. They're coming from a bunch of different places. I get 200 emails.
Probably more.
I get many of the ones you guys get.
Mhm.
But we actually listen,
Mhm.
and we're actually paying attention. So that I kind of want families to just keep that coming.
Absolutely.
Keep giving us advice. Keep giving us your opinion. When you have a resource, share it with
Mhm.
us. So that night, I'm there doing my thing and greeting all these kids and families. And then the CEO walks up and
Mhm.
you put us together, and I said, hey, could we kind of kickstart this for the whole district? And that's where this comes from.
Yeah.
Right.
It comes from me being at Foster City, talking to a person that a parent helped you reach out to that connected all of us, and
Mhm.
4 days later, we have a district-wide program from 9/1 until 9/21.
Yeah, and I can say as a parent with two students that attend our schools,
Mhm.
two of my own children who attend our schools, yeah, it's really nice to have this on campus, right?
Mhm.
It just it feels just a little bit more personalized, and you know that we are doing our best as a school district really to accommodate for our community.
And I
you know?
think if we're encouraging people to, well, you know, at my site, like everyone will continue to be tested, but I
Yeah.
think that we want to do that. We want to provide something that's easy and accessible for families so that
Mhm.
they hopefully don't have to think too much about where to go, but
Yeah.
they can go to the places and get
Yeah.
the resources
Just get
that
the
they
resource,
need.
yeah.
Yep.
So next question, does the district still say there is no school spread at Foster City with increased cases? So let me address this one because I've spoken at town halls, at live streams. This is a key line in the sand. What I've said repeatedly is 80% of the transmission is community transmission.
Hmm.
So we have had cases that are school transmission, but they are a very, very small percentage of the number of cases district-wide. So to this point, verified cases district-wide, we're approaching 40 district-wide, but think about this, 10,600 kids in school every day
Right.
Hmm.
for 3.5 weeks. That's a long time, guys. The calculus is really, really small regarding the number of cases. Now, when we contact trace, these folks tell us, I was sick and I sent my kids to school. I knew I had COVID and I sent my child to school.
Right.
We got to pull that back.
Hmm.
We got to stop doing that. We had a barbecue and invited kids from other classes and didn't wear masks. We need to stop that.
Mhm.
There are multiple cases emanated from that. Your school, you have multiple cases within the family.
Yeah.
So you got, if
sure.
I told you all before this started, I'm 44, my brother Abraham is 45, Marcos is 46, and Moises is 47. We would all had COVID if we
Yeah.
were in my
Mhm.
mom's house. We
Right.
shared the same bedroom, we shared the same kitchen, the
Mhm.
same,
Yeah.
we played together all day long. So that happens and that's normal too. So that's key. I wanted to address that. Question on whether or not kids can go to any test site. Easy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have it at Foster City School, so we love our Foster City School families to do it, you know, on Friday before they're back at school.
Mhm.
But the testing site is open to everybody, and the way that you register now,
Yep.
it'll be able to select the school site,
Yep.
the grade level, and then a classroom number, so that we can just be more efficient with our data and get
Super
information.
streamlined.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I met families from Beach Park and Brewer
Mhm.
Island, but now Beach Park's gonna have a test site.
Right.
So that will pull some Audubon and Brewer Island families and, kind of streamline it that way. So we tried to pick test sites, Sunnybray, Bayside, Foster City,
Mhm.
that kind of represented the whole, Abbott, we've got one up in Abbott.
Mhm.
Just so that we could have that spread, have that real broad access throughout the
Mhm.
community. And then we've got a question about whether or not students will be penalized for quarantine-based absences. That's an easy one. Can we all just shake our head?
Absolutely not.
No,
Absolutely
they're not going to be penalized. Will students without permission be required to test if the pool test comes back positive? So that's a great question, and the answer is yes, under modified quarantine, and here's why.
Mm.
So under modified quarantine, if a student in your class has a positive COVID test, in order to return to school, you are required to go and get tested
Mhm.
and then share those results with the school.
Mhm.
The difference is in a pooled testing scenario, we're doing the testing. So your child doesn't have to go anywhere. You don't have to take time off from work. You don't have to take your child to a test location. It happens on campus. So we're happy to have parents do it, or we can do it in school.
Mhm.
But if you're in a class that has a COVID positive test, in order to return under modified quarantine, you do have to test for COVID.
Mhm.
Simple. Diego, we got another page here. All right. Keep the questions coming, folks. I'm not looking up because this. There we go. All right, I see the questions coming in now. Where can I access the comprehensive safety plan for the school. The question says COVID plan. We have a district-wide safety plan. We have a safe return to schools plan. They're both on our district website, so I want to encourage families to find them there. We got a question about, will you consider keeping the children in the same classroom and have teachers move? And
So
that's
is that a middle school?
I think that's a
Yeah,
middle
middle
school
school.
question. You want to address that?
Right now with, at this point in the school year, that would require an entire redo of the master schedule, and logistically, operationally, I don't know what capacity we would have. I know you have a lot of experience in high schools and know the complications of the master schedule. There's also credentialing issues with teachers. So having the teachers move,
It's
you
just
know,
not feasible.
It's really not.
To me,
It's
the
really
answer
not.
to this one is no.
Yeah.
But let me tell you why. The reason we're not going to is because we have a layered mitigation strategy that is working. We have a layered mitigation strategy that has given all these children access to school. You know, 4 months ago, I went to the Bowditch campus. There were like 300 kids there. You know, we had 500 kids at home in May and June. So, you know, fast forward 3 months, we got everyone there. We got 800 and some odd kids at school every day. So when you do that, you say, you know, John, you're in strings quartet class, and you're taking advanced English, and I'm taking ELD, and Pam needs an RSP class. So we have these very unique schedules, and it doesn't work to move teachers around because children don't have the same classes.
That's right.
Where it works is in elementary school,
Right.
where you say, you know what? Instead of splitting the class in two for PE, we're going to keep everyone together.
Right.
Yeah. So great question. We've got, our sanitation companies called into schools immediately after a case? And the answer is yes. We actually bring on staff that comes in when we have cases. It usually happens on weekends or in late evenings.
Yeah.
In some cases, our staff will come and do some more deep cleaning,
Right.
but that happens pretty quick.
And that goes through Susie Riley and Mark Herrera, and they're very quick
Yeah.
to identify, you know, we identify the rooms and they provide the services.
It's kind of like there's a tree, right? So there's like the little circle at the top says a case is reported. And then it looks like the roots of a tree. It
Yeah.
goes this way and it goes this way. And over here you have the human resources department that has to follow certain rules and guidelines regarding notifying staff. You've got the school site departments, all the stuff you do at the school sites. You've got the facilities department that has work to do for facilities, and then you've got the health department. So one case causes
It triggers
35
yeah,
things to
lots.
happen.
Exactly.
You know,
and that's
and then-
that managing this, that's the challenge in it, right? Is every time there's a case, you know, it triggers all of these steps. And so
Yeah.
it takes a lot. And I just want to thank our at Bayside, our office staff and our teachers who have been just on it and really collaborative and cooperative.
The
So,
Foster City staff also been amazing. The other thing I want parents to know is when we get cases, so let's say we report we had 15 cases. So a parent's gonna hear that number and go, okay, 3 on Monday, 3 on Tuesday, 3 on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday. So let me tell parents, Monday of this week, 0 cases. Nothing. Tuesday of this week, 0 cases. Wednesday of this week, 5 cases. Monday and Tuesday for us, we're kind of quiet. You know, we were knocking on wood, sort of like, this is great. Wednesday shows up and we get 5 cases, and they're at 4 different schools. So when that happens, it initiates a process with 4 different school offices. And then our staff has to immediately engage in the work so that everyone's needs are met. Now, when it's an experienced COVID principal like yourself or you, we can do a phone call and say, all right, within 20 minutes, you're set. When it's the first time a school has had a case, it takes an hour and a half to walk them through every step of the way.
it's true.
Yeah, so it's just a process. We've got a question on whether the district can provide a clear definition of traveling. Yes. A clear definition of traveling is a travel that involves an overnight stay that is not within your zone of housing. So if you live in the, San Mateo area, if you live in Foster City, but you drive down to Pismo Beach and you stay the night for two nights, you travel.
Mhm.
If you flew anywhere, you traveled. At the same time, if you stayed home and didn't travel, we still want you to wear your mask and take all those safety precautions, because I think the travel is, you know, there are certain times of the year when travel is a huge concern. Labor Day is not necessarily the biggest concern. We have um, a lot more travel at Thanksgiving time and a
Mhm.
lot more travel in late December. So that's when we're going to really push this message. But now I think the message is, if you travel, follow these recommendations and requirements, which were published on July 30th by the San Mateo County Coalition for Schools, and take those precautions. Just
Yeah.
basically keep us safe, right?
And someone else has asked earlier about being penalized for not coming to school. And I think just reiterating that, we understand that. And I've talked to families that haven't seen family in a very long time and all those things, and just working with them, but also be cognizant of the choices that you're making could potentially affect an entire school community, and just working with people is important.
And we do appreciate families that are upfront with us about this,
Yeah.
that call to inquire about travel, and they take these recommendations seriously.
Mhm.
That's really important. So
Yeah.
we do appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we've got very engaged people in this
Yep.
community,
Right.
so that's always nice. We got a question about distance learning, if they're required to quarantine after travel. So what we're really asking families to do when they return is be in communication with your principal and your teacher, because that's a short time period. It's not anything more than 5 to 7 days. So if that were the case, if you chose not to get a test, if you don't have a negative COVID test and you are going to quarantine, contact your teacher and your school principal and receive some work that you can be working on at home. Then we have a question about how do we close a classroom in middle schools? And that's actually very different from elementary schools, because in an elementary school setting, you've got 26 kids with one teacher for 7 hours a day. In a middle school, let's call it 52 minutes. You're in, you're out. In an elementary school, you have carpet time. You're lining up all the time.
Mhm.
You're sitting pretty close to them. You're eating lunch at designated places with the students. At middle school, you've got much more open space. You're not in the same class with the same kids.
Right.
So the guideline we used to close an elementary classroom was 3 linked cases in one room, and that guideline doesn't exist for the middle schools.
Mhm.
So for us, it's more about looking at the school-wide cases to interpret the potential for any spread, and then going heavily into testing. You had a case that happened, we found out about it Saturday night.
Yep.
We
at
turned
8:30.
some paperwork,
Right.
we turned some paperwork around. Sunday, you were already communicating with families,
Yeah.
but tell your story about sort of what happened Monday morning when the kids all showed up.
So, yeah, because modified quarantine requires a proof right now at Bayside anyway, a proof that a student has taken a test, not the result. And we, in our letter home that went out Sunday, so this is, we got to hope that families are checking their email. You send the text message and the phone call, and you hope families are checking their email. But many families were not able to, or may not have understood the information. Kids came to school
Right.
that shouldn't have been there. And we had, I believe the number was 130 students.
That's right.
Because
It's a big number.
We had a situation on middle school. We also had one on elementary, and we were trying to manage both. And so we spent actually, we got through it probably within 90 minutes. It had settled, but we had to make lots of phone calls. The whole office team was involved, pulling kids out and saying, your child can't be here until we have proof that they have taken their test.
Yeah. Not necessarily that we have the results right away. In some
Right.
cases, they do get the results because they
Right.
do a rapid test, but that you went down to the test location and took your test. That's super important.
Yes.
And now we're offering all these testing, so it's
Correct.
really easy. Like today, we had a case at Burrell. Those families are already right now at George Hall getting tested.
Yeah.
We had a case at Bayside. Those families are already at George Hall getting tested. So that's a really nice piece of access that we didn't have before. I got a new question here. Why are these measures the ones we're talking about at Foster City, not being implemented district-wide. So the biggest thing I would say to families who obviously want stringent protocols in place at every school is we really rely heavily on those layered mitigation strategies. When we have cases that pop up more than one or two at a time at a school, we're just adding another layered mitigation. So, I read the list to families. This is our list. It looks like a little chart that's also available on the district's website. And Turnbull, Sunnybrae, Parkside, North Shoreview, Meadow Heights, Lead, Laurel, Highlands, Fiesta, College Park, all of those schools have 0 cases.
Right.
So our calculus is to say, when a school has mitigation strategies that are succeeding, you leave those mitigation strategies in place because the data is telling us that it does work.
Mhm.
But I hear parents who feel this way, and I want them to know that it's not falling on deaf ears. But at the same time, implementing these more protective steps in the interim when you do have a cluster of cases, we don't really know if it has that ultimate effect, but we think it's just another mitigation strategy to put in place. So we're happy with that.
Mhm.
And your parents are willing to work with us on it because they saw the cases come up.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. We've got a question on how many students are enrolled in independent study. As of a week ago, we had 71 district-wide. I'll get an updated number at our next YouTube live stream, which is at 5:30. And you two are doing such a great job. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and bring you back every time. Could you talk about the independent study program? Pam Bartfield is here. She's the director of CNI. I'm not gonna put her on camera, but if I say something wrong, just kind of give me a shout here through your mask. It's very different from distance learning. So it's basically assignments that kids receive. There is daily contact with the teacher, but it is greatly reduced from the typical 4 to 5 to 6 hours a day they were getting last year.
Mhm.
It's more 45 minutes to an hour or so. It is not distance learning. It is not intended to be distance learning, and the state has made a very, very big step towards in-person instruction is the goal for this year. Right. So thank you for that. How many cases from the Friday test at Foster City were detected through Virus Geeks? Do you know?
For positive cases, well, I can say that it's for since
Because it was Friday and
so,
it's now
but
Wednesday.
the Friday cases that were not, those were from before, right? So people are
Yeah.
getting notifications on Friday. But since Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we haven't had any cases of COVID as of right now. And I send an update every day by
Friday,
6. What time
Saturday,
is it? 6
Sunday,
p.m.
Monday,
We had
Tuesday.
0. We're
5 days,
preview
0 cases. So
so far. I mean,
and that happens, And
Mhm.
then the thing that we've all come to accept is you might get 3 in a couple of days because they don't all come one at a time. They kind of, it's kind of quiet, and then you have a couple of cases that pop in. But your school is one of the most tested schools in the district because we're offering those tests, and there were a lot of Foster City parents that were there Friday night. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm just looking at the number. I totally ignored that. Next. Let me tell the parents out there, I look at one sticky at a time.
I put an arrow.
I don't jump
I'll make a
ahead.
big star.
I follow my list. There are 73
underneath.
kids. There are 73 kids in long-term, and we've got 2 more, and then we're gonna stop right here, okay? 2 more pages. When is the pool testing starting? Our dates are all lined up to September 13th, but I'm gonna put this out there to families. If I were the one coordinating every aspect of it, it would have started last week. But we're working with the vendor. So our vendor has told us September 13th. If they push it to September 14th, I'm gonna implement it on the 14th. Any delay, I'll always come back to families and let them know what's going on. Right now, we're circling the 13th, and we're going to try to get to that date and implement it. At the same time, look at what we have in place. District-wide, testing sites all over the place. No charge, no insurance. Sign up. get the whole family out there. What will you do if the definition of fully vaccinated changes due to the Pfizer boosters? I have no idea. Until we get some kind of change from the state of California, we can't speculate on those things. I think if they offer boosters and they encourage us, I'm going to encourage everybody to go get a booster. What AQI number? Oh, this is a good one. Air quality. Let me try to group these together. Can grandparents get tested too?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Grandma and grandpa. What did you
Yeah.
call your grandparents?
Yeah.
Did you have
Nano. Italian.
Nana and Nano?
Correct.
And how about you?
Just grandma.
Grandma,
Mhm.
grandpa.
Mhm.
But we always kind of change their name a little bit. So my grandmother was Teresa, Mama. Her name's Teresa. Rest in peace. And then my grandfather was Papa Marcos. And so somehow we wanted their name in there too. Yeah. But a friend of mine just put on his Facebook. He built a crib for his about to be born. It's adorable. And he says, "I'm Pop Pop now," because it was sort of like when he had a child, his dad built one for his child, and so he was showing like the picture of them.
Yeah.
And adorable. How many positive cases were breakthrough cases, and were the adults vaccinated? I don't have that data. It's a very, very low number, but I don't actually have that data. And what we'll do on this one is we'll try to get some more info from the county to see if they'll give us that data, and we'll add this to our list for next week, next Wednesday at 5:30. Please explain the rationale for modified quarantine. Why not close the class after one case? So I can answer that one. The state of California has developed these guidance documents, and we are implementing these guidance documents. That's the sort of simplest way to explain it. What modified quarantine does is it puts a requirement that kids test so we can find out sooner if they have COVID. John and Amanda, how many of these kids are actually asymptomatic?
I would say all last week they were all asymptomatic.
We
like every single kid
Yeah.
is not sick at school.
The first week,
right?
children, I mean, so I think what's also, families are doing a good job that if their child is not feeling well, they're not sending them to school and they're waiting. And if a child is not feeling well for whatever reason, parents know that and families know we'll call them and they'll work with us to pick it up. But the second half, that's what we found. We found a lot more children that were asymptomatic and families didn't know. And so that's why we just want to know. So just get tested so we know and we can work with it.
We did have some that, some of this issue of students coming to school who aren't feeling well, and we find out after the fact. And
We
so,
send them home.
yeah, so.
But many of the positive cases are kids who feel okay. They
Yeah.
don't feel sick. Has the absence policy changed regarding dropping kids after 10 days? Yes, I have changed that policy. We are not dropping kids who are absent due to COVID. What is the status of putting CO2 sensors in classrooms? So we're working on a plan right now to acquire additional air purifiers to all of our classrooms in order to up the air movement, the air quality, the air cleanliness. The CO2 sensors, I'm going to invite our CBO to one of our next meetings so we can actually do a whole air quality focus. I'm super excited about that. That's why I said I'm going to wait for this. We are looking at numbers. We're looking at like unhealthy and then very unhealthy. So there's some sort of criteria numbers, 151, 251, 301. So we're going to be right in that mix. It's going to happen next Wednesday. We're going to have this panel. You folks, unfortunately, won't be here, but you will be subscribed at home and you'll be watching from your car and all that. So, are we utilizing the school and shared portal for outbreak tracking? SPOT by the California Department of Health. Yes, they just gave us that login and we're entering the data now. That's going to be kind of behind us. There's a delay because they have to get everyone's data, but on ours, it's every Monday, 8:30 in the morning. Why not update the dashboard daily or more than one time per week? And here's why, folks. Because we don't have time. Because we have to get it right. And we're bombarded with one positive case
Yeah.
results in 35 actions that have to take place. And the health and safety of children is our number one concern, and the health and safety of staff is our number one concern. Reporting out the district-wide data is very important to me. I like to have that transparency, but we're just a group of people here doing our best, and anything more than once a week would result in inaccurate data getting put out. And I don't want to set that process up. I want it to be known. It gets updated and boom, there it is, and it looks the same every time, and it's nice and clean. Somebody did ask if we'll do a chart to show like growth over weeks, so I am actually going to do that. I'm going to put that together for next week and show a chart that shows growth over time.
Or decline. over
Yeah.
time.
Decline.
Change over time.
Change over time.
Increase or decline.
Yeah.
How many are showing symptoms versus not showing symptoms? Again, it's a really low number of kids showing the symptoms on campus
Mm-hmm.
because staying home when you don't feel well is one of the mitigation strategies.
Right.
I'll try to get an exact number.
But again, I
Our
would just
next
like to
meeting.
emphasize to all families, if your child is not feeling well,
Stay home.
please stay at home.
Stay home and get tested. If
Right,
you-
and-
they
and
have
get
one of the
tested.
symptoms,
Absolutely.
get tested.
Mm-hmm.
How is the incubation period addressed in the modified quarantine? I'm not sure that I know how to answer that question, so if we can hold this question until our next one, I want to make sure that I'm clear on what's being asked. I'll give this question to our nurses. And then Diego, do we have any other? We have one more page here. Our last 6-pack. Here we go. Are siblings at the school required to quarantine? Yes. If you are COVID positive, your siblings will need to quarantine. So that's a yes. Will the district offer universal pre-entry testing after extended breaks? I don't know. I think what this question is asking is, when we come back from that Thanksgiving break,
Mm-hmm.
are we going to make every single child in the district get tested before they return? I think that's going to be pretty hard to do. I think I'll want to work with people on that a little bit more. But we're talking about 11,000 kids.
Yeah.
We're talking about a lot of people. So I just don't even know what our capacity countywide is to do that. I would say this one will get a big circle around it so we can do some planning to create some mitigation strategies there. What is the schedule for pooled testing and what percentage of students at each site? Right now, we're planning every student at every site, 100%. The schedule, what we're arranging with this company is half the schools on Monday, the other half of the school on Tuesday. For our middle schools, it gets a little bit complicated because kids move around.
Right.
Like at elementary schools, I could have a person there and test your whole school in one day.
Yeah.
But at your school, your 6th, 7th, and 8th graders move around. So we might actually do like half your school on Monday, or like all the 6th graders on Monday,
Right.
and then try to get the 7th and 8th graders done on Tuesday. Because that's really the only way we might be able to kind of group them
Right.
together and get them all tested.
Yeah, it'll be a little challenging logistically, I think,
Yep.
but I know we're gonna be able to figure it out.
All the Q-tips in those nostrils need to be in their containers by 12 o'clock, because by 12 o'clock, the vans are taking off to go do the testing. The testing is done off-site, so by 12 o'clock, all the boogies have to be in the containers so that we can go and test those out at the facility. We've got a question on, if a student takes the bus and is positive, will all the students get a close contact letter? Talk about that.
We had a situation where it was a student who had been on the bus, and we got the list of kids who ride the bus, and then that was handled. We worked with, again, Susie Riley and Mark Herrera, and myself. We all worked together on identifying those students. So that the children on the bus is part of.
That's our new process.
Part of the tracking.
Yeah,
yes.
And we're learning every day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Question: if a student gets tested out of school, are they exempt from pooled testing? It's all voluntary. The whole thing, you could just choose not to involve your child in pool testing at all.
Mm-hmm.
We hope you don't. We hope a high percentage of the families opt into it. But it is optional. We're going to shut this down in just a minute, but I want to give you, Amanda, an opportunity to just speak directly to the parents and to your students out there that are watching this.
Mm-hmm.
What message do you have for them going into this long weekend? What's your takeaway that you want
Should I
these
look
folks
at
to have?
them?
You can, yeah.
No, I just wanted to first say like thank you to our entire community. I know that this has been a hard first couple weeks of school, and I think the reason why we've gotten to this point where hopefully we continue to see very low or zero numbers of COVID positive is because we're all making choices outside of school that are helping everybody inside of school. And so just to continue to do that, continue to get tested, continue to just have an open and honest dialogue, and we'll always continue to improve our system. So as long as we're doing, I think, what we're doing now and maintain that, we'll continue to keep our kids and our staff, and we want our children in school. And so we need to do it together.
Together,
Mhm.
cautious. John?
Yeah, I would add, I think what's really important is to recognize the fact that we had a PTA meeting last night, and I actually used those words. We're all in this together. We really are. It's a partnership between our families and the schools.
Yeah.
And our students, we have asked them to, to continue to be good about wearing their masks. And we're a middle school at Bayside, and so middle school students, it can be more challenging, but they have done a great job, and our elementary students as well. And parents have been through all of this, very supportive, very understanding, very collaborative with us. And I would also say just continuing the collaboration that we have going on as a school district, learning from each other about, the best steps to take. And it's site to site, everything can change overnight as we're learning. But just working together as a team, I think that's really important. But just thank you to the Bayside community for doing a real good job through all this. But if your child's sick, keep them at home.
Just be smart and be safe. That's what my mom says. Be
safe.
smart and be safe.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom. She
Right.
says, be smart and be safe. So
I had a boss who didn't like to have long meetings, so he would tell us, be brief, be brilliant, be gone.
There you go.
I have other meetings to have.
Yeah.
In our case here, we want to wrap up. I have two things for families. I want to let families know. Number one, the emails that you send help me. They're good to get. A couple of community members have said, how do we know that mitigation strategies that you say you have are actually happening? So starting on the 13th of September, we will start to put out data that indicates to families what percentage of our mitigation strategies we are finding implemented district-wide. So we'll have administration actually entering data into a spreadsheet that we make live to the community to show at the schools we visited today, we verified there's hand sanitizer in the container. The restroom had soap that was working. The school had, the students were exceeding expectations in terms of wearing their masks appropriately. That we had COVID protocols on the front door of the school. We let people know about staying home if they're sick. So we'll have a little criteria showing exceeding expectations and percentages plugged in there. So I think that's good because it's going to create that other piece of information that parents want to know, which is, are you using these mitigation strategies that you're promoting, that you're using?
And it's also accountability for each
Accountability,
side,
right?
right?
It's us saying
for
we
sure.
got to follow these things.
Absolutely.
I want to give a shout out to Dr. Becky Steffen. I went to her school today. The school board president and I meet every week at a different school, and we asked if we could meet at her school this week. And when we finished, I walked around with her to a couple of classrooms. It's the most adorable second and first grade classrooms you've ever seen. Every one of the students was just wearing those masks, so nice. Every one of the classrooms had the hand sanitizer, so, I mean, it was just really great to see those mitigation strategies. She went into the girls' bathroom, checked the dispensers. I went into the boys' bathroom, checked the dispensers. It was all ready to go. So just wanted to mention that. And then second, every parent in the district got an email from me last night or today in English or in Spanish, notifying them about a program called We Are One SMFC. It's a program where we're basically saying, does your kid like to get their photograph taken? Will your child be willing to tell us their story? If so, sign up. And overnight, we had 60 families sign their kids up for this program. So we're going to make sure we have kids from every school, and then we're going to invite them to get their photograph taken. Actually, will you grab that for me, Diego? The one that, the photo that I've shown you of my son, that kind of like a close-up picture. I think it's right behind me on this thing here. The idea is to have a photographer come and take a picture of your children that looks kind of like this. This is my son. He's 18 now. As you can tell, he's a very handsome young man. But we want to take pictures of our students from San Mateo-Foster City that look like that. And then what your child will do is they'll actually write their story of what they have experienced as a student in our district, so that we can use it on our district website, so that we can post these beautiful photographs with their student stories in our school offices, in our teacher recruitment materials, on our web content, because I think it's very important that people in our community celebrate the richness and the diversity and the uniqueness of all of our children and the experiences that they have in our schools. So I personally just want to put a plug, sign your kids up. We're going to keep this going all year long. When you come to our district office or come to school events, I hope to be able to project these beautiful photographs with the stories of the children that were in our schools. I want to thank all the parents for being here. Thank you to Peter Kazanis, Director of Technology. Thank you to CNI Director Pam Bartfield. Thank you to Communications Specialist Diego Perez. Thank you to Mr. Cosmos and Ms. Goll. You guys have been awesome. Totally stealing the spotlight from me, but thank you so much for being
Thanks for
here.
having us. and
Thank
thanks
you
for
all
doing
for
this.
being with us tonight. Yep. Be in touch soon.